Hey, nobody left.
Okay.
In progress.
Like to call this Morgan City Council meeting to order. It is June 8th. And we'd like to welcome everybody that's here in person, those that may be on watching us by Zoom, or those that are on watching by way of YouTube. As we start off, I'd like to ask if we have Ty lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Eric will give us an opening ceremony.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. All rise. We'll use the flag in the council chambers. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before thee humbly at this time. We're thankful for the many blessings that we have. We're thankful for this beautiful valley, and we're thankful for the citizens that reside here. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to serve them. And we pray that tonight, as we make decisions, that we'll be able to make those in the best interest of our city and of our neighbors and our friends, that we'll be able to also see into the future and see what we need to be able to do to help progress this city along. And we pray for the moisture that's much needed, and we ask that thy hand will help us with that in this drought, and that we'll be able to have the things that we need, that we'll be able to have the crops for our animals and our livestock. And Father, we love thee and say, sing in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ty, and thank you, Eric, for that help that we all need. Appreciate those things. Start with the consent agenda. As soon as the council's ready, I'll entertain a motion on the meeting minutes and on the warrants.
Mayor,
Tony,
I just have a couple of questions on the warrants.
go ahead.
Just from my understanding, I'm probably, it's been discussed and I've forgotten it, but on the invoice register, so the meters, the 39,594, and then I see we also have meters on the budget, the upcoming budget as well. Is that pretty well going to take care of all of our meters? Ty?
Yeah. Yeah, we hope so. So we did pay for 200 plus meters installed, and so they're coming as the bills coming in as they're getting them installed. So
Then the capital outlay, the equipment, the 181,000, was that? What was that for?
on this year's budget,
Yeah, I'm looking at the invoices right now.
all the invoices
Yeah.
What page is that, Tony?
what's that?
It's Saltech Industries.
Is it?
Uh-huh. Oh, this one up here?
Yeah, item number 1.
Yeah, so that's the
Bucket
bucket truck.
Okay,
Yeah, the new
okay.
bucket truck. So we've had it for about a month, but didn't get the invoice till now.
Did we make any other prior payments on that, Ty, or is this incomplete? Or is this complete here?
Yep, that's complete. So
Okay.
the whole bucket truck all in one. So we have a large bucket truck that's ordered that we have in next year's budget. It just depends on how long it takes them to build it.
And then I'm not looking at the specific, I'm just looking at the back 2 pages, so I apologize, but
Oh, you're looking at the summary?
The 144,249 for vehicle purchases, was that for the three trucks, the three?
So, yeah, that's 2 3/4 ton trucks and then the 5,500. We've received all three, but the 5,500's at getting a dump bed put on it.
Okay,
So we'll have one additional cost for the installation of the dump bed.
and then the item below it, the 18,488 for the equipment purchase.
Are you on the summary?
On page 13, Ty.
Okay. So that's why I was like looking to skip around here.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't looking at it in video. I just looked at the back.
So I think that's a Kubota, but let me find the,
Yes, Bonneville equipment for a Kubota RTV.
yeah. You know what page that's on? It's on the
Well, the
first.
very first page, it's alphabetized.
I seen the Kubota.
I saw the Kubota too, but I can't remember where I
It's
saw
the
it.
third item on the first page.
Yeah,
It's where?
yeah, that was for Kubota. So we have two now, with the park. So we decided not to do, half-ton pickups for the parks employees. Before, the idea was for seasonal. Now we don't have seasonal employees, but we just have the two Kubotas and instead of pickups. And then it's been really convenient. They've had the sprayer mounted in one and the equipment, all their trimmers and whatnot on the racks there. So that's what that expense is. It's quite a bit less than a vehicle.
What use would you have for those in the winter? How would you use them?
You can put a blade on the front
Okay, good.
for sidewalk and the path. I think we
Yeah.
still are gonna use a full-size pickup truck on the path, but yeah, it has some options with the attachments.
Smaller jobs.
And they're enclosed and they do have the heaters and all that inside the cab, so they are pretty useful.
I think that's it. Thanks, Ty. Other than, can you find me a 2021 one-ton truck for $43,000? That's not a bad.
But we'll have three 2019s with less than 30,000 miles for sale in the fall.
Yeah,
Two Ram 1500 Classics and a Ford F-150. So
yeah,
Mhm.
pretty good buy.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one tie over on page 6. We've got these, an account to UniFirst Corporation. Just, you may have mentioned it before, but these are small amounts for sure. Office expense, supplies, and then uniform. What are those typically, those amounts spent on?
yeah, so we have a contract with that company to one, provide our uniforms for all of our public work staff, and then they do laundry service. We're modifying that contract, but it doesn't end until 2023. So our guys are, they've reduced the number of uniforms that get washed. Not everybody was using the service the same, and we went and had that evaluated, and we're planning on just finishing out that contract and then doing something totally different on our own. So
Okay. So those aren't in, I mean, that'd be a summary of the invoice that make up a single check. There's maybe 15 or so small items, but you're not cutting checks for each one of those.
no, yeah, you're right. They all add up into one check. So
Yeah. Okay.
let
All right.
me go down to that one just to,
Yeah, number 6 there. And then some of the amounts are recurring, but that would make sense if you're cleaning the same thing over again.
yeah. And this is also, just so you know, this is how it's broken out by department. So
Oh, I
each department gets billed
Oh, yeah.
their portion of that bill, and then this is the check number and the check amount. So
Okay.
it's just, there are two separate, they're not two separate checks, but that's two separate invoices.
Uh-huh.
where they have the same check number. That's all included on one.
Yeah, so you still got to input all of that. I would, the new process, probably you'd maybe consider doing something a little less intense. That seems like a lot of
Well,
work.
So it's actually not terribly intensive because in our accounting software, there's a template that's set up for reoccurring. So when we
Okay.
get that bill, then she applies the template and it takes that 88 and divides it out. It'll take
Okay.
that 122 and divide it out equally. So there's some setup on the front end, but yeah,
Yeah.
we've looked at that new accounting software that we have really helps on the reoccurring. The other common one is office supplies. You
Uh-huh.
can see how these always get divided out.
Right.
And that's
Well, that's-
another template one. So she takes the one invoice
Mhm.
and doesn't have to type in every line item. It's just consistently applied. So
That makes sense. It looked like it had the potential of being some work. I'm glad it's not. That's all I had. Thank you.
yeah, you bet.
Any other questions on the minutes or on the budget?
Just
Go ahead, T.
one
Yeah,
one
go
quick,
ahead.
just what my curiosity here. So I just looking at the law enforcement contract. So do we still like get do we still get like a monthly report from that officer of activities or?
We haven't been getting that. It's something we could request against part of the contract.
I guess my only question is, so are we sure that we getting our bang for our buck on that?
Yeah, so what I do know is I do talk to the officers in the parking lot when I come in and out of the building, and I do ask them who's on, which one's the city car. And so I do know we have an assigned city car, and then I do ask them for things that we need. So I know we have a dedicated car. I never did get those reports. They used to go to the mayor. But I'm not sure we judged the dedicated officer, I think is what the intent of the contract is versus how many tickets they wrote or how many calls they had. But for now, I know we're getting the effort. We call them on road, vehicles parked on the road, traffic issues. And we've had some issues at the cemetery that just this week I asked them to follow up on. So they're pretty responsive when I have a need. But we, as far as value and having that contract reevaluated, I haven't done that yet. So.
Any further question or a motion?
Mayor, I've reviewed the minutes and warrants and would move to approve city council work meeting minutes of April 27th and the meeting minutes hybrid of May 11th, as well as the warrants from 5/7 to 6/4, 2021.
Was that a motion?
I think you
Yes,
motioned.
that's a motion. We have a second.
Second,
Okay, motion by David, second by Tony. We passed the minutes from the Morgan City Council work meeting of April 27th and the meeting minutes, a hybrid meeting of May 11th. And one set of warrants from 5/7 to 6/4. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, see no one, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, before we go to, first, actually, agenda. Denise, did anybody any comments from the public? Okay. So before we go on to the agenda, I would like to pull item number 4 from the agenda. And before we move into the agenda, and give a minute to Gary to explain the situation on that item number 4.
Thanks, Mayor, members of the council. Item number 4 is an item specifically addressing a letter that came from the Weber Morgan Health Department. regarding the provision of sanitary sewer up in Round Valley. There's a new development that is about to take place up there, or at least is applying in the county. And the letter had just simply requested a decision on the part of the council regarding the provision of sewer and culinary water for that development. The difficulty is that there's no application on the agenda, or there's no application that you can actually file on a use that is that far up the canyon that Morgan City could make a decision on. It's not within our policy annexation area. And not only that, but to run a line that far down, 2 miles, mile and a half, 2 miles down the road, the liability on that would be incredibly large. And so it was just a decision that was easy to make. There is no application pending before the city on behalf of a developer. It is just a question that they had raised, that Weber Morgan Health had actually raised, and we could answer that very easily ourselves by saying, no, we're not going to run a 2-mile line, and it is so far outside of our annexation declaration area that it probably will not be part of Morgan until the second coming.
So Gary, would we expect a request to follow?
No, I talked to the developer as well today, and they're pretty much set on just doing a small 33-unit project. If they did do something larger, they pretty much would have to build their own sewer system up there.
Yeah.
They put in 160 units. I talked to him this morning, and he indicated that to bear the cost of running a mile for a line for 2.5 miles, they'd have to put about 100 and almost 200 units up in Round Valley in order to get enough food
Efficiency.
so to speak. Excuse the expression, but that's literally, and so it was just kind of an impossible situation. I think the county, the health department just, I know that they don't favor septic tanks. And so the developer would have to build a lot fewer units in order to be able to put septic tanks up there, but there's no way that Morgan City at this point could even entertain an application of that sort. And the developer is not interested in applying for it. So that would be good.
Well, it's a good resolution. That was one that had a lot of questions that came with it. So
It did, and
Yeah.
it would have just been burning up time in a public meeting for something that couldn't happen anyway. And so we'll, if it's okay with the council, we'll just send a letter to that effect, just indicating that first of all, there's no applicant. Second, it's not within that annexation policy declaration. No, will not be probably anytime in the future. And then third, the liability of putting in a line from Round Valley all the way to Morgan City would be extensive. The city's
it's excessive. Yeah. Is that something you would help with the letter, Gary?
If that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to
Great.
draft that for the mayor's signature. And
Great.
May I say what I thought was odd? A couple of things. It's coming from the Weber Morgan Health Department. It's not even coming from a developer, for heaven's sakes. I also didn't appreciate, our office would appreciate a determination from the council in writing. It's like, was they expecting us to draft some formal document tonight that we're okay with it? I mean, I didn't understand that. And then the other one was, I felt like we were being held hostage. If we don't allow this to happen, the development will never take place up there. So, I mean, you know, that was a little heavy-handed, I thought, as well. So I was not too thrilled with it.
kind of thought the same things. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else, David or Jeff? Okay, we'll move down to item number 3 on agenda, which is public hearings. We have several public hearings. To start with, I'd like to have a motion to open the public hearings on those 4 items. Whoever makes that motion to specify those items. After the public has a chance to respond, and we close the public hearing, then we'll take each of those items individually and discuss those items with the council.
Can we open
And the public hearing being the cumulative? Can we consider all? of-
But we need to name all four of them as we open the public hearing for the purpose of and state all four of them, yes.
Yeah, I move that we open a public hearing for the purpose of considering adoption of the certified tax rates, property tax revenue budget amounts. Number two, compensation schedule for elected statutory and appointed officers. Number three, adoption of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget. Number four, the rezone request, single family residential, R18 to general commercial, C G, property located at approximately 115 East Young Street in Morgan, Utah.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
A motion by David, second by Eric. We open the public hearing for four items as stated by David. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously with 4 ayes. Denise, is there anybody on the call for public hearing? Okay, nobody here, nobody on, nobody requested. Okay, then I will call for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Eric, second by Tony, we close the public hearing on the 4 items as stated for the public hearing due to the absence of public to address those items. Is there any discussion on the closure? Okay, entertain a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passed unanimously with 4 in favor. Okay, well, as we've talked about, we pulled item number 4 from the agenda. So we'll move to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the adoption of certified tax rate, property tax revenue and budget amounts. And number 5, resolution 2117. In your packet, you received that tax rate and also received today, Denise sent out a revised pack with some additional information. We have some options tonight of what to consider and what to do. Ty sent out, put together 4 options for us to look at, consider. You pull it up one, and Ty sent out again for discussion. It shows, good, one more, Ty. Go ahead, one more. Forward, up, down. One more right there.
Better.
Stand on your head.
It's been a long time since I could stand on my head. Okay, this is some information I put together. As we adopt the tax rate, this is just information for us to think about and consider. As you can see, as you can read that, some of you already read through that. Shows various years, revenue received and the rate was there. You'll notice the third column over in the rate is decreasing each year. But also you'll notice on the revenue increases each year. That is happening as we have an economy where property values continue to rise. That's the situation. And the state uses some voodoo black magic to come up with that number, what it is, as far as supposedly holding it neutral, the income neutral. Totally can explain the formula they use later.
Gary told us before, he knows how they do that.
You'll notice in the last column, they talk about a change from previous year. The situation last year is it only had a 1.1% growth, which was probably not very accurate as far as what we actually saw. This year, the 2021 that's bolded is what they're proposing this year. They're proposing again, they're suggesting that we've had a 7.5% increase in property values. And the rate, they're suggesting a 0.001471 rate, which again is less than last year's rate, but their proposal would give us a income of $386,000. Now, last year, we already collected $385,740. We collected that much and they predict 354. So we've already collected last year as much as they're predicting for next year. So probably doesn't look like it's a bad situation. Now scroll down, Ty, if you would, towards, there's some options Ty's presented in the post, proposed to us for us to think about. Option one would be to accept the rate that's in bold for the 2021 line column, accept that rate and accept the revenue that they are proposing. Option two and option three would create a truth and taxation hearing. We need to do that by August 17th, which would postpone our final budget adoption till then, with a public hearing prior to that date. Option two that would create that would be to keep the same tax rate we had last year in 2020. In other words, not float the rate down. If we did that, that would generate about $405,000. Option three would be to propose a new rate somewhere between those two. Instead of slowing it down, to propose a new budget rates on the 2021 line area. That does a couple things. Instead of floating it down, it goes partly between holding the rate at 1544 and dropping it to the 1471. That would bring in the 394,000, or about what Ty proposed in our budget, in the budget amount. Those are three options. As I talked with Ty, he didn't say not as they pushing any one of them. I guess part of the question is, right now where the economy is blooming and values are going up, seem to be okay. Down the road, who knows what will happen if the economy somehow declines and property values go down. Then you got to scramble to play catch up, and some tremendous increases in values. Right, those are some options. Ty, would you like to give some more input on that, and then we'll let the council ask some questions?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. There's a really good overview. So it's kind of an interesting process because we put our budget together and say this is the revenue that we're budgeting towards before we have a proposed tax rate. So we didn't receive the proposed certified tax rate until yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So this last item right here, the budgeted amount is 394, like the mayor said, based on the fact that this year we've already collected 385, right? So it kind of keeps in line with where things are headed. Either way, you know, we adopt the certified tax rate. I'm not going to amend the budget. Yeah, I don't think we need to. I shouldn't say I'm not going to amend the budget. That's your purview, but we don't really need to, right? We're still talking in relative terms of $10,000. It's not a huge swing one way or the other. The property value increase was 12.8% this year. So yeah, it recognizes growth. There is more revenue proposed this year on the certified tax rate than last year. So really the option is, if you're comfortable with the certified tax rate, we do it tonight. If you want to explore any other option or have any other valuations, like, you know, what does this do to a person's tax bill? Then we just postpone. And when you do if you decide to go the August 17th truth and taxation hearing route, you can still adopt the certified tax rate in August. It just means, you know, you're not comfortable with you want to kind of evaluate other options moving forward. If you're 100% comfortable with the tax rate, then you just adopt it and move on. My main concern, like the mayor said, is just to watch that tax rate keep taking a dive. The county's rate is still at 0.002 something. The school district for the last couple of years has just locked their rate in, so we're just keeping the same rate. And they're a lot more property tax dependent on their budgeting than the city is. So it's just an interesting dynamic. I think if I had a preference, it would just be, in principle, you stick with the budgeted amount. You say this is the amount we need and the rate is what it is. And even though that means truth in taxation, it's kind of the middle of the road option. It's not a huge swing either way. And if you go into a recession or we have another one of those bubbles, the opposite thing happens where the property values start to decline rapidly, then that rate is going to increase and everybody comes unglued because now they're having a huge tax increase right when their property is being devalued. So we can't really win. Like the mayor said, it's all just kind of a magical formula that they use, but I do think that their formula is a year behind. It's not based on this year's current numbers. There's a lag there. It's a latent, the numbers that they work off of are not what's currently happening. It was based on the year's previous rate that was all closed out in December. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to contribute.
Okay, thoughts from the council, which direction you'd like to go?
Quick question. Ty, you said that the actual collected was what, 380, what did you say? 385?
Top
And 359 was,
Proposed.
or was that what was
Yeah,
budgeted or?
Yep. That was
was the state.
the rate we adopted last year and that was the projected revenue. So
So that 386 with, if we just accepted the certified tax rate as is, I mean, clearly there's a possibility that number could, it could, you said it could go down, but it certainly could go up as well.
yeah, and so that's interesting because last year we adopted the exact same rate and the impact to the property owner was the exact same, like we looked at our own bills and we paid the exact same dollar figure. And so that extra revenue really does just capture the new growth, right? So, and the formula is supposed to account for new growth, but
Right.
that extra revenue, like you said, it's very likely that we'll generate the budgeted amount with the certified tax rate this year. But it just depends on how things go.
Do you have your crystal ball?
Yeah. I do have a crystal ball. It says just go with your budgeted amount every year. And it is what it is. No, I don't have a crystal ball.
Further discussion or questions?
Yeah, here's my thoughts on it, Ty. And some of this goes back to our discussion a year ago and some of the considerations that we had. First, I want to point out, your fourth column there, the percent change from the previous year. We're going down, and we other than the 7.5 that we're having for this year, if it stays the same, that kind of stands out for sure. But everything else is between 1% and 5%. Well, that makes sense because the program, like Ray just explained, says if property values go up, your rates go down and vice versa. So the program is working very comfortably within that 1% to 5%. If we use the same formula that you use to figure those rates on the fourth column, granted 2% above the certified rate, but that's not the increase of the amount that you're getting. If you do the math there, it's $27,000, from the 359 to 386, which is just under 10%, 9.75. You go down to your option 2, and all of a sudden that jumps up to 13%. So hence, it calls for the truth in taxation because, now we've gone up this 10%, another 13%. But my point is putting those numbers in the same column. Now, all of a sudden, in my mind, we're not staying within that margin that kind of the program is asking us to do. Not that we can. So that leads me to the next point. Well, why would we want to go outside of that? And last year we talked about that. I remember 2 concepts. One is we maybe have a special purpose project that we need to do, a library, whatever it happens to be. And remember Gary explaining that there's cities out there that will go through a truth in taxation process in an effort to stay ahead of or abreast of a inflationary arrangement. And we recognize that we probably haven't adjusted for inflation in many, many years. So in my mind, if we had, a program where we were regularly doing that, and I'm even suggest, Gary, maybe you can clarify, but I would suggest that even though we're seeing more money, that may not be accounting for inflation just because of the way the process works. So I guess to see a truth in taxation, I'd like to see something legitimate not legitimate, but something that was a program that would say we're raising taxes for this reason, i.e. either, maybe inflation, or here's our special purpose project, give something to the community that would say, here's why your tax rate is going up. So I guess I feel that we stick with what we've got, and, the additional programs are gonna, like you say, Ty, you're gonna add maybe another $8,000 to $10,000. Well, yeah, that's probably not moving the needle a whole lot when it comes to our budget. I'd say let's save the truth in taxation for when we truly need it, and maybe for a bigger project or a program. We consider a program that would say, here's regular adjustments, even though they may not be significant, but they're accounting for inflation, and that's why you're seeing it.
Okay, thank you, David. Appreciate your thoughts. Tony, Eric, Jeff, thoughts?
Mayor,
Tony,
I'm prepared to make a motion.
okay, that's fine.
I propose that we adopt resolution 21-17, the adoption of the certified tax rate at the proposed rate of 0.001471.
Motion by Tony, second by Jeff. We pass resolution 21-17. Resolution adopting the 2021 tax rate and property tax revenue budget amounts. And that rate is 0.001471, with revenue amount, projected revenue amount being $386,170. Is there any discussion on that motion? David, any discussion on the motion? Okay. If no, we'll proceed to vote. We'll go by roll call vote since the resolution. Eric?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Tony?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously. We just adopted resolution 21-17 as stated, as written. Okay, we'll go to item number 6 on your agenda, which is resolution 2105. Compensation schedule for elected, statutory, and appointed officials. Gary can correct me, but by state statute, we need to adopt this compensation schedule for those individuals. As you can see on in your paperwork there, it's got those numbers listed for you. Ty's got them up on the shared screen, shows the amount those are. Ty, I don't know, you talk about as far as what you have proposed and what included in the budget as far as salaries and benefits, those kind of things that will play in this a little bit as well as the budget.
Yeah, so during the tentative budget process, I mentioned that we're funding, or we're proposed to fund 2% cost of living adjustment, which would apply also to mayor, council, and the appointed officials, as well as the health increase that was 5.4% this year. So these salaries have already been, the 2% cost of living has already been applied to these salaries, even though we don't receive those until July 1st.
Okay, appreciate that. So those are already included in there. And we took care of the health increase as well. With that information, are there any further questions? Or I'll entertain a motion to pass ordinance 2105.
Mayor, I'd approve we pass ordinance 2105, an ordinance adopting a compensation schedule for all elected statutory and appointed officers of Morgan City Corporation, providing for the repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I'll second it.
Motion by David, second by Eric. We pass and adopt ordinance 2105, an ordinance adopting a compensation schedule for all elected statutory and appointed officials, officers of Morgan City Corporation, provide for repealer, providing for servability, and providing for an effective date. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, see no, so the vote, this is a roll call vote, this is an ordinance. David,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and Eric.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passed unanimously to adopt ordinance 2105 as stated. Okay, now we'll need to move to item number 7 on your agenda, which is resolution 2116, adoption of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget, such adoption of next year's budget. Within that budget, it does include the tax rate we just talked about, the amount that's in there is taken care of. It also does then take into effect the budget for the year. As I previewed through that, the only changes that Ty has made to this from our tentative budget we talked about a month ago was just a couple of changes in some salary areas. Building permits went up, road impact fee collections went up, and then some salary and wage things that come up. Some engineering fees increased a bit, travel and training, those kinds of things that I picked out. As I went through, there wasn't anything that stood out to me to be a problem. There wasn't any concerns I had. With that, I'll open up for discussion from, Ty, would you like to make any highlight comments first? If not, we'll just have the council ask questions.
I just mentioned that the salary adjustments were with the addition of hiring Wanda between, when we did this in April and didn't have that position created. And so no substantial changes like the mayor said on where we're headed. So.
Any questions on the budget from the council? Tony, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I don't have questions. I just, for clarification, again, we probably discussed this. I've
Please.
just probably forgotten. On the very first page, the sales tax transportation. Remind me again why we see the increase in that, Ty. Just
So this is the local option sales tax that we adopted.
okay.
It started in January. So I had it for a full year budget last year, and we just barely started collecting in January, and there's a 3-month lag before we actually see it on our books. So we ended with a half of a year. But for next year, if we have a full year, that's the projected revenue. And then that is totally contingent on sales tax activity. We did see a significant increase in sales tax spending as people shop local during the pandemic. We were one of the highest % increases of any city in the state, like a 34% increase in sales tax. Then just totally depends on how long that lasts or sustains, and how well the economy does. So it is a rough estimate, but if things track like they are, then that we should receive about 200,000 in that and for roads. So
it's largely reflecting that 0.25% sales tax that we initiated, correct?
yeah, that line item is 100% local option sales tax.
Okay. over on page 2, I just got a couple of these. Just down from the top, the miscellaneous, 466, up to 200,000. Am I reading that correctly? What accounts for that?
Yeah, so that one is the train depot project.
Mm,
So it's kind of contingent on if we get some grant money.
Okay,
You have to have it approved to spend it, even though the revenue may or may not come. So we, I put it in on the expense side, but don't necessarily spend it unless we get a grant to half match that or whatnot. So.
may I continue?
Go ahead, go ahead, T. Go
I
ahead.
apologize. I just
No.
have a few.
No, it's,
Go ahead, you're fine.
that's
Appreciate it.
good.
Appreciate it.
Page 3, again, toward the top, under the road fund, road department, capital outlay equipment, 200,000.
Yeah.
That's,
So that's a brand new plow truck
wow,
that we've ordered. So we would surplus our other one once we got that one delivered. We had to get our name on one. The total, we ordered it, the total bill's 191, I think.
okay.
So, and that one's not in the internal service fund because it's exclusively used and owned by the road department. So some of our other equipment that they all share is in the internal service fund where they, it owns it, the departments lease it. So anyway, that's what that does.
Okay. And then I think maybe with one more, so again, sorry.
Yeah, no,
You're
good.
fine.
Same page 3, the park improvement splash pad. The 150,000, we're looking at making some improvements over there. Ty, is that what that's?
Yeah, yeah, so getting it connected to the SCADA system and also in conjunction with the doing all of the sprinklers. So that project is, we haven't bid it out, so it's a rough estimate of what it would take to redo the sprinkler system and have it all automated. Right now, the parks are not
Which would be good.
automated, and that's one of our challenges is accounting for our water use, is not just adjusting schedules, it's leaks and monitoring equipment, all of that stuff. So yeah, that would be good. It would really enhance the park, but I think it would also conserve a lot of water.
I think I'm done.
Okay, that's fine, T. Look through these things more, come back to you. All right, Eric, any questions?
I think Tony already hit some of the ones I was gonna ask, so I think
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, David, you have some.
Just back to revenue, Ty, back on sales tax up maybe $250,000 to the 1.18. What's going to drive that?
So at the amended budget this year, we're projected at over $1 million.
Mhm.
So that's what we're on pace for. Right now, you can see our actual
Okay.
was
Yeah,
here.
I was comparing it with actual. I
Get
got you.
about, last month, we got about 115,000 in sales tax with June left to go. So
Got you.
that's just the trend. That's just the path that we're on. So
Okay.
the other thing is it includes the hotel
Okay.
that we didn't have in the prior year, and then some of the new businesses that have come online on Commercial Street. So but like I said, we just monitor that and weekly basis, make sure that our spending's not outpacing the revenue.
Yeah.
So we never get caught behind.
What, just a rough thought or idea, what percent of that 1.18 is contributed by automobile sales?
So they typically come in right around 30,000 per month.
Okay. So maybe a third is, would be automobile sales. So when Tony buys his new pick 'em up, that'll jump way up, see?
BMW.
Oh,
Oh, wait, we don't have one of those. We don't have that dealership in town. Never
it's
mind.
gotta be a Dodge or a Ford there,
Yeah,
Tony.
you're
Sorry.
right.
Yeah. The other one, I had a question on building permits. We'd expect homes to continue at the same pace, new building as we did last year.
Yeah. So we also looked at the subdivisions we already have approved, and there's a lot of building left to do. So those are actual building, permits, homes. So that all the lots have sold in the subdivisions. We have one subdivision under construction with phase 2 planned right after that one. So yeah, we're still tracking on building permits for sure.
Yeah, even in light of escalating costs, people are still building homes, aren't they? That's all I have. Thank you.
You bet.
Jeff?
Well, one was on the B and C thing, but they kind of answered that. The only other question I had was that tie on that new truck is, does that come with the plow and new sandbox, or is that just a truck only?
Yep, that's everything. So it comes with yep, fully equipped. It also, like, one of the nice features is that it has the sanders in front of the tires. So the truck actually takes advantage of the
Traction.
sand. And so it's a lot more easy to operate. We essentially have one plow driver that does the whole city, and then it's supplemented with the other crew that we do have another truck and another pickup truck that does a lot of the cleanup and the cul-de-sacs and that sort of thing. So I'm just really trying to get on top of all of the equipment. When I started 4 years ago, it was one of the things that's proposed. That's something else I should probably apologize for. If you remember last year, there was a lot of narrative on the budget. I didn't have time to do that this year. I think the council appreciated that last year when it had the narrative for what the budget accomplishes and where we're putting our focus. And so, don't feel bad about asking questions, because I didn't provide the narrative this year to go off of.
Just tell us to go back and look at last year's.
All those got accomplished. It's a whole new year.
All right.
That's other than the Young Street Bridge, most, our priorities are essentially the same. I was just kidding. So yeah, it's still the Young Street Bridge infrastructure, equipment, supporting our personnel. Just not in the budget, but we are looking to get rid of our sweeper. We have a road grader that doesn't even function really. So we're still we're just taking it a step at a time, right? But once we get the equipment upgraded, it'll be a lot better use of time, do a much better job, and not have staff time just with transmissions and maintenance and that sort of thing. So we've really appreciated the support from the council to get on top of our equipment needs.
Well, maybe better to sub out that sweeping deal and own one of them. They're pretty
Yeah, that's exactly what we're,
demanding.
yeah, so
piece of
we,
machinery to keep running.
yeah, so we did that with, I think it's called Sweep Utah,
Yeah,
and we paid, it was only like $2,500 a time for them to come for 3 days.
yeah.
And then what our plan is, just so you know, is to get a little broom attachment, I think either for the skid steer, small tractor, just to do cleanup when we do patching and, have a storm event. We need to clean off, just some leaves or prep for the parade or something like that. We'll do that in-house, but it'll just be a small broom instead of that maintenance nightmare of a sweeper that we own. So.
I'll make a motion.
Yep. Anybody ready for motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 21-16, resolution adopting the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022 for Morgan City.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jeff, second by Eric. We adopt resolution 2116, a resolution adopting the 2021 through 2022 fiscal year budgets beginning July 1, 2021, ending June 30th, 2022 for Morgan City. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. Against roll call vote. Tony,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
and Eric.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously, 4 ayes. Okay, now we'll move to item number 8 on your agenda, which is the ordinance 2104, zone change from single-family residential R18 to general commercial CG property located approximately 115 East Young Street in Morgan. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the item that we have Scott McMillan with us. Scott's the business administrator from the Morgan School District. Appreciate you being here, Scott. Thank you for you being here to support this. Basically what this is, has been the planning commission. Tony and Dave may respond on the planning commission response. But basically we're taking the area that is currently the Morgan Middle School ground that they own. And schools can be located in a single-family residential area, which is currently a zone. And the school district had been interested and supportive and willing to consider making this change to commercial. So you read your packets and looked through and see what it had to say there. I'm sure you did that. But basically, school districts have been helpful to try and promote our commercial area. It benefits the commercial area currently there due to it removes the restrictions that are placed on commercial and commercial butts single family residential. So by moving this ground to commercial or CG, it allows for a commercial area to expand. It reduces some of the ordinance requirements, the separation between commercial and single family home. Also, it potentially could make the school ground more valuable if and when they should ever decide to make a move there. And they've been willing to help support us rather than, I think, benefit themselves, but in support for Morgan City and in the commercial area. Ty, would you like to explain that any further? And we'll turn it over to Scott for his input.
No, I think you did a really good job there, Mayor. This is just interesting because a lot of the setback and other zoning requirements is from the commercial side is buffering a zone and not an actual use. And so this just really makes the two zones contiguous and incompatible. Right now, the sheds are not compliant because of the setback. The school used to own those, and so it was allowed to be built there, and just brings that into compliance and leaves this parcel here options. And so I know the business owner on this side is pretty excited about having that zone change, and every single project, like the car washes put in over here, had a lot of back and forth and some weird agreements and things like that in order to make that work. So this is just I think a really good move all the way around. So thanks.
Scott, would you like to speak to that for a minute, please?
Yeah, I think you guys have addressed the key issues pretty well there. And I think maybe just the only thing that hasn't been mentioned that was talked about in the planning commission is it's consistent with the general plan and the use of the area as well. Thinking of it long term. Our board has tried to be supportive. Like was mentioned, we did a long-term lease on that strip of land along the car wash there. And we recognize that the school district not necessarily being restricted by zoning allowed us to create the situation with the bus garage there that's non-conforming use. And so this helps to clean that up as well. So the school board was supportive of it and is appreciated, this partnership with the city and the adjoining business owner as well and wants to be supportive of those things.
Go ahead, Tony.
So as I understand it, if we have a single family residence zone, there needs to be did I understand this correctly, a 30-foot buffer?
There's quite a buffer
A buffer
required.
between a single family residence zone and a commercial zone.
Yeah.
And obviously that, as Ty mentioned, that would make the bus garages right now, but right up against the fence, be totally non-conforming. So the planning commission, I think unanimously suggested or passed this on to us to approve. Makes a lot of sense to me as well. I think it's a good thing. So.
Further comments, David or Eric, Jeff?
So Scott,
Word to me.
Scott,
The positive thing that I was excited about was the cooperation, the good feeling, the goodwill between the school district and the commercial area there in the city. I think that's a positive win with those good feelings that are created by those kinds of gestures by us Leandys. And I said the school board has been very supportive of other kinds of things. Ty and Scott worked together on several different items and ideas. And school board has been very supportive of those concepts that we as a community want to accomplish. So thank you.
Ray, I'd just add one other little piece to that.
Sure, go ahead.
The neighboring residential owners were all notified. I think it's within 300 feet of the change. And of course, there's a few on the south side of the street there. We're all notified. And if I'm correct, I don't think there was any input from anyone there.
That's correct, David. Correct.
So, hey, just one last thing, Scott. Do you get combat pay for being here tonight?
No, I'm actually going to turn this in as professional development time for watching how Ty gets his budget approved. So, this
Get some use out of it anyway, right?
is great training. And I might just mention one last slightly related thing is you'll see we're building a new parking structure by the maintenance facility over there. And we actually did the appropriate setback on that one. So
Hey, right on.
Okay, entertain a motion or more discussion.
Mayor,
Tony?
I am prepared to make a motion on ordinance 21-04. Ordinance amending the zoning designation of property located at approximately 115 East Young Street by changing the zoning designation thereof from residential R18 to general commercial CG, providing for the amendment to the zoning map, providing for repeater, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Tony, second by Jeff. We pass ordinance 2104. I will not read the entirety of the ordinance. Tony stated very well. Any discussion on that motion? If not, proceed to vote. Again, ordinance will go by roll call. David,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and Eric. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, we'll now move down to item number 9 on your agenda. And number 9 is city reports. I'll start off with Ty and his reports, and then we give time to city council towards the end for any discussion reports you may have in your portfolio assignments. So Ty?
Yeah, so I'm first of all excited to introduce Wanda Adams, my administrative assistant. So she's been on for about a week and has a bunch of energy that I lack and pretty much compliments me in every way. So I'm pretty excited to have the extra help, and I'll let her introduce herself. Yep, you get to.
He told me I didn't have to speak. I would just sit and be supportive. But I'm excited. I'm really grateful. I'm probably on the second day that Ty asked me a question about the job. His question was, "Why are you so excited? Why would you be so excited to come work for the city?" And the thought of, I've never worked in the public sector before. I've always done private, and to be able to be here and lift and help a city progress, that was really exciting to me. And thank you for allowing me to work for the city and to, like Eric's prayer, see it progress into the future. And I hope I can help along the way. So thank you.
And I didn't say it like that, just. What she doesn't know is that was me being happy. That was only day
See
two.
how this can
work already.
Just so the council knows, it wasn't like, why in the heck? I didn't say it like that at all, like.
What,
No, it was a personal question. No. No, you're awesome. I was
what
just
the,
harassing myself, really.
what the exciting part is, she spent a week with Ty, still willing to come back.
Yeah, so, and she forgot to mention that part on day two. When I came back, I was like, oh, good, she's here. She came back, so 5 in a row now, so setting records every day, just like I am. Okay, next item is the food pantry is relocating. So by the end of August, we'll have the basement. And I've been working on a plan to have the basement finished out and provide space for the Morgan or Weaver Morgan Health Department. We've put in for almost a $200,000 grant for that. So as you know, we don't qualify for CDBG money very easily. That's the Community Development Block Grant because of the income restrictions and that sort of thing. And this sounds like it's right in line with that population that makes it difficult to travel to the health department for those services on a consistent basis from Morgan. And so we've met with them and also Health and Human Services. So we've just had a couple of initial meetings, and it would just be a better use of space, I think, and also more of the same operating hours as the city and provide a presence where sometimes we feel like it's kind of a Weber County only deal. And I look forward to, if that comes to fruition, being able to rub shoulders with the health department.
How much will that be staffed, Ty?
It's very, so it'd be kind of flex space and by appointment. So right now they're using our small conference room here to administer shots, actually. Vaccines, that's really not real convenient. They also have a cubicle space in the north front, which is not private. It's, you're in a cubicle environment talking about people's public health concerns and that sort of thing. And so the idea is that we'd finish it out and they would have like an exam room, office space, waiting room, but be able to use different programs. So one program might only come up once a month, others might be twice a week, and just use that, share the space that they have. And so that's kind of the concept is, each program would probably have its own hours based on the need and number of people served.
So if someone wanted to attend here versus traveling, to travel to Ogden, I suppose you can walk in at any moment, but they would just need to make an appointment, I suppose, then.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
with
So
hard-
it's still all their own same contact, but they wouldn't have necessarily like a full-time receptionist
Mhm.
position here. It's more the office space for them to say, WIC is here for whatever hours on whatever days. Not
Yeah, so
necessarily all appointment, but each program would probably have its own
So
schedule.
there may be some, even though it's not full-time, there may be some permanence to schedules that they're here every Tuesday, for example.
Right.
I think that'd be helpful.
And they could monitor the use and the demand, right? So if they can just flex that as they need to, if they find that they need to be up here more because they always have a line out the door, they could adjust that. So.
Looking at county minutes, it appears that moving the pantry hasn't been a significant problem. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's, they're moving to the Grace Bible Church. And so it's not necessarily one of those things that's a county function. I think it's supported heavily by donations. I think it's nice to have it on ground level instead of in an unfinished basement. I mean, we've been housing it, but it's not an ideal situation, I don't think, even for the food pantry for the people it serves. And you go down there and kind of feel bad that it's all rafters and open, lighting and then also load a cart and have to take it up the stairs and across tile floor out a breezeway. It's not easy to service the community that it's intended to serve. So anyway, yeah, I think it's a positive move. It's
Good. Yeah, good report.
okay. Next thing is we finished the fraud risk assessment. We mentioned that in a previous meeting. We have the results here, right here in the packet. And we actually bumped our score up higher than we anticipated, thanks to the council and your efforts to get the training. So anyway, that's been, this has been submitted. Has it been submitted, ready for submission? After tonight, then we'll. Oh yeah, and there's a signature right here now on the original, so. There's an update for you.
Have you made a stamp for one yet?
A stamp of my signature?
Yeah.
Yes, I use blue ink, so. Let's see, what's next? So water restrictions. What's that? Yep, I have that right here. So the state's been, let's see, I think I have another. This is off of the state's webpage, and we've been really evaluating our own water situation. Our springs right now are producing about half of what they produced in this for a month previous. It's hard because our sources are wells and springs and not visible, not easily measured, but we did take measurements on the springs, and the Robinson Spring is producing about 24,000 or 24 million less gallons per month than a year ago in April. And the North Morgan, which is a smaller flow, is about half, and so it's producing about 200,000 less gallons. We've been operating our wells just to keep the tank levels dropped to 6 and 8 feet a couple of times already, and so it's as bad, for us as the rest of the state. We've been just contemplating what direction the council wants to go and how restrictive and what we've come up with. We've drafted a couple of different letters internally, just preparing for this meeting, and then the state's taken such a proactive approach on this. I really appreciate that they have this, and this drought.utah.gov website is where this page comes from. And this messaging right here says, if you're in one of the, and it changes weekly, right? So this is just for 1 week. So it has a recommended in this color. It's kind of hard to see, but it says irrigate 3 times per week. If you're in this zone where you're supposed to irrigate 3 times a week, then it says to cut back 1 watering and go back to 2. And then it talks about, kind of we're in survival mode, not green lush grass mode statewide. And then there's some other resources on that page, but I think it would behoove us just to follow that exact same, do some public messaging to point people towards that, follow the same restrictions that's recommended. it's kind of eye-opening to think, well, that's for the whole state. They really don't have a beat on what's going on in Morgan. And I think it's a lot more accurate than I would have anticipated as I've gone through that website. And then also knowing that our springs are already struggling to the point that they are. We don't have the ability to measure our well depth or the groundwater. And that's a concern. That's something we hope for in the future, is to, know when we're drawing down on capacity there. To this point, we haven't had any trouble with any of our wells, so that's good news. But we just need to follow these restrictions. And I guess that's what I'm asking, is if you're comfortable with, just following the state's lead on that. If you're supportive of us just doing our own messaging, we thought about putting out signs, yard signs, like the election signs, on water restrictions, and directing people to the state website. Internally, we need to make a decision on the splash pad. We ran numbers on that. It uses 50 gallons a minute when it's operational. And right now we're about at 100,000 gallons per week on the use. And so I'm not sure that we're going to be able to keep the splash pad open. We can try, we can scale back and monitor. It's just however, how the council feels about how aggressive we want to be. I don't think that we can lose on, I don't think we could be too cautious on water usage. It's just, the main thing is to preserve culinary drinking water. That's what it really comes down to. And so any actions we take in that effort is good. Difficult decisions. But one thing I do want to ask, just under administrative updates, because I've never dealt with this before, is I'm not sure if it falls under my purview as a administrator, or if the council wants it to be under my purview, to do, implement restrictions as we need to in neighborhoods, or if we need to maybe do a declaration authorizing me to make those changes as we go, so I'm just anticipating if we have a tank that dries out, or a well that quits producing, just so it's an appropriate action if we need to start cutting people off, or getting after people that overwater or water during the middle of the day, that sort of thing. So any feedback or input you have on those lines, I'd appreciate that.
Ty?
Yeah.
So until just a moment ago, I was thinking of outside watering, watering my lawn.
Sure.
That was interesting what you just said about our springs. That sheds a whole different light on it for me personally, because I hadn't thought about that. But I think that probably is something that needs to get out to the community
Quickly.
because we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about culinary and secondary. And again, for me personally, I was not aware of the culinary side of it in our springs. So I don't know how we get that message out, or, but I think that would be important, because for me, knowing that right now, I think I'm going to be a lot more cautious, maybe with some of the things I do with inside watering. So,
Yeah.
And the other one would be, I guess, Gary, a question for you would be, as far as the outside watering is concerned, for those of us who use secondary water, would that be something that would be implemented by the Secondary Water Association, or would the city have a responsibility to curtail that usage?
So I can answer that too, Gary. So we've talked to the secondary water, and they're prepared to follow suit on whatever it is that we decide. So the challenge, or the reason we ask that, is because the enforcement's going to be left entirely up to us, right? The secondary waters are like, yeah, you can do, we're on board with whatever restrictions, but they really don't have the personnel or any staff that's going to be educating people, or, when we get complaints about, hey, they're they water 6 days in a row, then it's gonna be our guy that shows up, whether it's culinary or secondary. It's really, the burden's gonna fall on the city to really educate and meet with people to see if we can't curb the usage or make them aware, you know, hey, did you realize we're in the middle of a extreme drought?
But do we have do we have authority to enforce on the secondary where it's not our program?
That was my question, I think.
So your code states this. It says the city council shall by resolution regulate, restrict, or limit the use of water during water shortage periods, and shall have the power to take all necessary means and make any necessary regulations as circumstances may require to protect the users of the city water. City water would include the supplemental secondary as well. So you really have that ability to pull whatever lever you have to in
So-
order to stop the water from being used.
Do we,
That's 8.02.080.
do we need, Gary, do we need to meet back to together as city council and officially make some declaration? Can we give Ty that? What my hope, my fear is wrong. If something should go south with the underground water level, we don't know where it's at,
It's way
aquifer
low.
or the springs, we might need to make a decision within a half hour from now. Can we give Ty authority to make a decision within parameters? We have to call a special city council meeting to make those designations, hoping there has to happen. But give us some direction on how that should happen if we got an emergency situation.
So what I would do is I would do a resolution that essentially gives Ty the power to be able to make that determination in an instant. You know, if we needed to shut down a tank or a well or something of that nature, that would be something that you could do by resolution. And the city council could meet in a special meeting just for that purpose to get that done as quickly as possible. I would encourage that. I think that would be a good idea. So we can get a resolution drafted by tomorrow. And we could send it to, or we could get it back to you so you could arrange for a special meeting. You could do that by Zoom.
And we do especially by, like when hybrid, those come in, those come
I
Zoom.
feel-
That makes sense.
I feel enough urgency to say, yeah, let's go for it.
Part of that, well, I'll quit talking with some further discussion from the council on what ideas you think, either what you've heard other cities doing or what ideas you think we like to impose as far as what, this is a good guideline. But if I read that, okay, I'm watering twice a week and I water once a week, okay. But what about those, anyway, we need to tell what we want to do. Can you water only between 6 o'clock at night and 10 o'clock in the morning? Nobody's got water on between 10 and 6. Do we want to put that out there? This just says cut down on watering. We want to put more information than just this. Ty mentioned that, and yes, Stephanie and Chad and the staff has done some work on putting together a letter to go out. There's quite a bit of work on that. And I previewed it as well and give my comments. But we need to get some information out, I think, an education type piece. Part of that is we need to come up with what we think we want to include in that. There'll be watering hours, amount of times watered, so forth. I'll let Ty come in further if he wants. I'd like to hear the council's thoughts on those kind of items. And I'll give my thoughts on some things I've heard. Weber Basin, some things they're doing, some things that Pine View Reservoir is doing.
Yep.
Pine View says they'll be out. For 2 weeks, I heard they'd be out in August. Yesterday, I heard they predict they'll be out in July. They'll be out totally out of water, period. End of conversation. Out of Pine View, yeah. And some of the things they're telling their residents, they're getting tough on it.
I think you got to, because it seems that people, it's always tough that, you think you got your rights, your water rights. They're my water rights. You can't tell me what to do. I mean, I've heard that conversation with me more than once. And so, but, as far as the wells, I know there's one down by me that they just do irrigation out of, and it's dropped almost 10 feet just in the last little bit, you know, there's just no groundwater. Even with what little irrigation we do have, it's just not going into the ground. So I think he's dropped like 10 feet just in this spring anyway. So I do feel an urgency to it. I think, you know, it's interesting because I thought about this all day long. I knew this is coming up and I thought, you know, where is our place? Do we do resolutions? Do we try to have a heavy hand with it? So I've kind of pondered on this all day, you know, and how do you get the word out there? I mean, I got neighbors that I think, well, think they're growing rice. I'll put it to you that way. Or do you just try to do a peer pressure system and you'd hate to be the one with the green lawn in your neighborhood, you know? I mean, that may be where we're getting to. I think if people realize the urgency of the situation and realize that, you know, I'm with Tony here. I knew where my irrigation water was at when it started this spring. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. How am I going to farm off of this? You know, it's tough to be cutting crops of hay that's dried up to nothing. But, you know, last thing we need to do is get our culinary system in trouble where we don't even have any drinking water.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all got to realize the dire situation there. That's the last thing we want to do. And so as I thought about that, I'm like, I think we just got to take maybe some heavy handed action here, unfortunately, and do that. I mean, I think we need to do multiple things. I think we need to be on top of this. The last thing we'd want to do is have something run out of water. And then what? You know, if we could all kind of conserve, maybe we can get through this, but it would take all of us, right? And so all those water restrictions from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., we shouldn't be watering. And maybe we got to tell people 1 day a week. I've heard down in Davis County, that's what they've done in some of those areas is 1 day a week watering and minimal water. If you could do minimal water on your lawn, yeah, it's going to go brown, but it'll go dormant. At least we could keep it so we're not having to replant it next year. We're into dirt.
It won't kill it.
No, it won't kill it. I mean, I think people have got to come to that realization instead of having that green lush lawn that we all love. I mean, all of us, myself included. Go look at my house. But I think that's where we need to go. I think we need to do some resolutions. I think we need to come out. I think we need to get our voice heard as quickly as we can and let people know the situation that we're in.
Tony?
I mean, what concerns me again is what Ty just told us 10 minutes ago. I could live with a dormant lawn. I just want to be able to get a drink of water or flush my toilet. You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm concerned more with that culinary report than I am really just getting my lawn watered. So I think we need to somehow get that message out too, that we need to be very cautious of our water use inside watering, you know. Little things, turn the water off when you're brushing your teeth, you know. Maybe you don't do your dishes as much as off. My wife won't like that one, but I'm all for that one. You know, I mean, things like that. So
It's huge.
and obviously you can't go to people's home and, you know, enforce it, but I think it's important we get that message out there that, you know, we're not necessarily, exempt from having some problems with our culinary system. So. I think that'd be good to put on our website. Yeah.
Denise, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Just run a hose from the river.
Well, there's no water in the river. I mean, somebody's asking me about East Canyon Creek and I'm like, have you ever seen it that low? And I says, yeah, I've seen it that low in January when there's no water running. Here we are in June and it should be all the way to the top. And I mean, I'm seeing gravel in the bottom of it.
Well, I heard the other day that Echo Reservoir will just be a river running through it. There won't be any lake.
That 50%. It's at what percent capacity? I just barely looked it up. It's at 50% capacity. The director of the Division of Natural Resources in the state says there'll be major reservoirs that will be empty come August.
Ray, and Ty,
Yeah.
I think we need to be specific in our approach. To just say conserve, it's not going to happen. People need to,
Agreed.
and they need to be reminded if we, and like you say, you don't want it to be a police state, but oftentimes just a reminder, somebody knocking on the door and saying, hey, you can't do this is enough to avert a problem. I'd like to maybe see one other thing, and that is to tie it. Would there be some way of coming up with some triggers? In other words, if a flow got a certain level, here's our action. If a tank got a certain level, here's what we implement. We approve that in advance, or we agree to it in advance, so that it's not leaving you with trying to come up with solutions or answers at the spur of the moment. Is there some homework you could do that way? You talked about the flow right there. I mean, there's a great quantitative amount that figure that could be looked at.
Yeah, so that's kind of the challenge is it's not easy to have the information. So we don't have a constant meter. This was like, we had our SCADA guy come and compare from the previous year and had to take a whole month's worth, and then the wells are also either they're flowing or they're not. So once we have problems with wells, and so coming up with triggers, I think is a little bit more difficult. I think you're on the right track though with being specific, so if we start with it's a 3-day restriction and
Yeah.
odds and evens, you only water on these, some tangible thing that right? If your house number is an odd number and you're watering on an even day,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
not doable, right? So
Yeah. Things that are easy to, I think what we're doing is quantifying it, like you say, even odd house numbers, whatever it happens to be. If it's quantifiable, it's a lot easier to monitor.
yeah, the other challenge is no matter what we do, we have a department of 2 that are on a daily basis trying to operate the system and don't necessarily have the full day to dedicate to, it's going to take education and neighbors, helping each other out or making people aware. And I think the educational component, literally, I don't think that there's a lot of people that are aware.
No.
Right. So, I mean, it's crazy because we pay attention. We've seen this executive order from the governor and not everybody watches the news and realizes what's going on. But, and then the other thing is like, we just need to really, as a city, that's one thing we did is we knew we were probably over watering to get ready for Memorial Day at the cemeteries. The park isn't doing as good because we've cut back on the water in the parks, and it's just those balancing acts of, like the splash pad.
I'd say
It
this.
uses a lot of water, but
I'd say this to the splash pad, Ty. I think one thing we need to do as the city is set a good example. I mean, if we start shutting down the splash pad saying due to drought conditions and due to the culinary water usage, we're shutting down the splash pad. I mean, that kind of already sends a pretty good message to me anyway.
yeah, and
Yeah, tank elevations and spring flows, we've decided to turn the splash pad off. I mean, that right there sends a pretty good message, right? And so I sit and wonder too, Ty, how do we get the message out to the people in the city? I mean,
so
what do we?
multiple ways, but everyone's gonna find indifferent. We just gotta canvas the thing. Like you said, somebody might not realize till they try to use the splash pad and then they're like, hey, why in the heck did you shut the splash pad down? So for that one user, they're gonna be like, oh, there's something going on here, and somebody else.
Yeah.
But I think the yard signs would be really effective, just like when we do fire restrictions. It puts it right in neighborhoods, entrances and exits to neighborhoods, so that everybody's kind of aware. But the more people are aware, the more they're going to talk. So, but I think if we just focus on the educational, I think we have a really responsible community, and I don't think they've ever been asked in this community to limit their water use, and it's been a luxury, but I do think people have lived in other areas where they've experienced, a lot of people have lived in other areas where they recognize that. And so if it's for the overall good, I think education will go a lot further than enforcement right away. And the enforcement side, it's, I think, a matter of just letting them know,
I agree.
so following up and.
So we have a company that sends out all of the utility bills, and we're thinking whatever we send to them, they'll put in that envelope as well. So that's one way to get it to every home that uses Morgan City water. So Stephanie was working on that. We want it to be simple. We had kind of a long letter that people are going to be like, that's too long to read. I'm not going to get to the bottom of that. So trying to just bullet point that, simplify it. And I mean, who doesn't look at the Ridley sign? I look at it every day when I drive by. I mean, there's simple ways. You come at the exits, at the on-ramps, I know that Heinz does dry cleaning because of their sign at their exit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at those signs, and then when somebody's possibly not in compliant, we have a door hanger.
Yep. Okay.
Not barging into their houses by any means, but
Just
that's
letting
kind of
them
what the
know.
water people have been
Okay.
talking about.
You're doing great.
I do think it's a good idea though to draft a resolution, Gary, and give Ty some authority to pull some levers if he needs to.
Yep.
Based on the information he has, without having to convene a city council, and make a decision.
Putting one together right now.
She's doing it right now.
Yeah.
Me too, with that. I don't need this like daily. I wouldn't want it daily, but just keep the city council updated on the spring levels.
Sure.
If we need,
Well, anything that changes, right? So just like we did during windstorm or anything.
yeah,
else,
just
we'll
like that
Yep, we'll
Yep.
just do updates when.
when needed.
changes or we notice.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sure.
Do we have a target date to start the education, to start having people water once a week? Gonna start tomorrow?
Yep.
Maybe your thoughts on that, Ty?
Well, just based on the process we're going through, as long as you want to ratify it by resolution after I make the.
So we could ratify it within a few days, I would hope, if it's by Zoom and.
I'm
Gary's
just
got-
saying, like it needs to happen. It's just a matter of it hasn't formally gone through the resolution process. But what we can do is between now and then, I think, develop our materials. It's going to take us a little while to get some things printed and ready to go. So
Okay.
we'll work on it as staff, and maybe we'll be, ready to start messaging as soon as we meet again as council, if it's maybe next week or something. So,
Let us know.
What's this
Okay.
listed on the agenda tonight as?
just administrative updates.
Administrative update, so not for decision.
Mm-mm.
Otherwise, I could have one for you, right?
No, yeah, it's just kind of like, kind of updating everybody on the water situation and, that website on all of the material we push out, just so people can go do their own homework.
Now, the governor's executive order was what? Week on May 13th, whatever.
Yep.
We did another one back in March. The one back in March listed, he tasked all of the state agencies with certain things. And the one back in March actually had more specific items as far as checking toilets that are running, checking water softeners, checking water fountains, checking all those kind of things. He had a whole list of stuff listed in the executive order back in March, specifying. As Tony mentioned internally, And there's the save the flow's got some stuff. You know, when you brush your teeth, turn the water off, and wet your toothbrush, turn the water off. Till you're done, kind of thing. You know,
Don't do the
shower,
dishes.
you don't, you know,
Turn the water
turn
off
the
on
water
my
off the shower.
teenager showering.
get yourself wet, lather up, and wash yourself off. Don't run, take a 20-minute hot shower. But some people do, you know, I guess do that kind of thing. I don't know how you enforce that. That people think they deserve that and paying for it. I got to get it anyway. But if we get down to critical where it's a matter of 20-minute shower, you get a drink of water, it may be a different situation. And how you put all that out, how you help educate people, slow a lot of that stuff on. But the governor's prior executive order had a bunch of items, at least he was imposing on state agencies.
He is correct in that.
So
Ty,
Eric,
Talk-
the nice thing is sometimes when the kids take long showers, they're also the same ones that forget to flush every single time, maybe. Just in there.
Ty,
Yeah.
so, I mean, here, boiling down to just a classic supply and demand issue, you know, go back to your economics 101. Any chance of raising water rates because our supply is less and demand is either equal or going up?
Well, we know our water rates aren't adequate as they are now, but I think what happens is that's more of an overage adjustment. You know, when it's, you know, you got your 8,000 gallons, use them wisely, you go over and that's, I think, where the overage rate really comes into play.
What a good time to
We
raise
still got
it.
that in place, right? That overage rate. Because somebody's asking me about that. My parents was asking me and I says, oh, that was taken care of a long time ago. And it's still there, correct?
It's-
I'm pretty sure we do, don't we?
Oh,
yeah.
We have overage rates.
Over
You're-
8,000
you're-
gallons.
Over 8,000 gallons,
Yes.
you pay two
And we
Per
give the
thousand.
people in North Morgan a break
Yeah,
because they don't have secondary.
that's what
water.
and so the secondary water, my parents made a good point to me. They said, you know, as soon as we go shutting secondary water off, well, then that's easy enough. I'll just go water my lawn off the
That's-
culinary.
That's a thought.
I mean, my
That's a-
parents said that to me and
That's a concern.
And it's a huge concern to me. I mean, we can definitely regulate that river water, right? But man, I sure, you know what I mean? I'll go hook to my faucet on the front of my house and have a green lawn and water my brown. Well, that isn't going to do us any good. I think people need to realize too, the severity of the situation.
Or try switching culinary to secondary or secondary to culinary.
Hey, yeah, that's another concern I had too, Tony.
Backflow and contamination.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
again, back to the question, Ty, can rates be raised? How,
That's a good question, Dave. Let me ask, one thing I, again, read from one source a year ago. They said the most effective way to help people conserve water is to raise the overage rate. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's just one person's thought process. You increase the overage rate, that helps people conserve.
Mhm.
So whether we want to try and do that or not, good question, Dave. Maybe we need to, I guess, think on
Makes
that in the council. When we have our
I'd like to.
executive session, ponder that. We can, you know, yes, Dan, yes, Dave, the answer is yes, we can raise rates.
What is our overage rate right now? Well,
I don't remember two something.
it's over, it's over 8,000 gallons. I
Yeah.
know that. And it's two tiered.
Good question.
I remember.
After the base amount, then it's per thousand. So it's, I don't know what the actual rate is, but it's like $2 and some per thousand.
Maybe what we ought to do is give Ty and staff some time to look that up and figure that out for us.
We could do that before the meeting, yeah. Come,
But I know it's less for the folks in North Morgan because they do not have the ability for a secondary water. You know what I'm
Things
saying?
like
They're-
235 up there. I wonder
is
what
it-
it is.
You know, that could be part of your education component also. Know that the rates have gone up, you know, buyer beware.
The overage rate.
yeah, that's one way to get the word to every person. So, you know, maybe it's a seasonal rate just for this year too, you know, that makes it
Yeah,
till
it's a
October.
Yeah, exactly. A resolution, it has a term end on it.
Yep. Okay, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I'd be a little cautious on the end date on that thing, because what if we hit October, November, and we still haven't had any moisture? I mean, we could
Pass a new one.
put an end date on there of October, could be a little,
Couple a couple of things. I've talked to people around this past week. Talked to one gentleman up in Hardscrabble, and they have problems up in Hardscrabble with some of their individual wells. Talked to one individual, he said their well flow's cut in half. I teach him, I says, you're showering twice a week instead of 4 then. Talked to another gentleman up in the Croydon area that runs the Croydon culinary system, and he said their flow fluctuates quite a bit. When it gets down, they only get like 10 gallons a minute normally. When it gets down to 2, he said that's when they have problems with bacteria and within their water system. He said he's talked to the state a bit on that before, and when they get their flow goes down, they supplement heavily with their well because of the contamination problem. And he said not guaranteed everywhere, but he talked to some people at the state level, and they said, yeah, they've seen that happen elsewhere. When the flow decreases, then you have potential of more bacteria problems.
yeah.
So the safety of the water is another concern, at least from that conversation I had with that gentleman. I don't know if you want to try and contact the state and ask them if that's how valid that is elsewhere or not, but he indicated that was a problem in Croydon with their system.
I know there's a couple of homes up Hardscrabble right now that are hauling water.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Of course, the range ground's different, but I know I talked with the Reese family, and they've lost several springs that are just flat dried up. Their springs are half full, half rate. Talked to a gentleman up again in Lost Creek area, same thing there. They've had some springs dry up that typically go dry in July and August, but they're dry now. And so to me, it's been a concern. I've been talking to people for 3 or 4 weeks now. I've had the concern. I know the Pineview folks, the thing they mentioned here in the news was that if they caught, they're pretty heavy-handed. If they caught someone not abiding by their watering standards, they were going to just come lock them off, shut them off, period. So it's not if you're caught, we give you a door hanger. If you're caught, we shut you off. You're done. That's what they've gone to in Pineview. But that's secondary, it's not culinary.
Gary, how's Layton dealing with theirs? Any thought, any feeling, any ideas there?
Yes, we've got the same problem exactly. Case Creek Irrigation, which is one of our main irrigation companies, is down to 30% in a couple of its dams. And so
Wow.
they're looking at cutting off early, probably maybe even as early as the end of August. So
Mhm.
we have wells, and we also have Weber Basin
Right.
sources. And I wondered about that because I know up here we've got those transfer agreements with Weber Basin. And I wondered if Weber Basin had put out any edicts yet regarding the use of those water under those agreements. I'm not sure if they do or not.
I think we lease 100 shares from them. We buy 20 shares a year.
Okay.
Okay,
More updates if you're ready.
we give the side touch and direction, we'll wait to hear back. Yes, we start the word. Okay, Ty, go ahead. Continue on.
Well, I guess under that same one, immediate action is we could shut the splash pad down and then meet on it for as far as how we regulate the neighborhoods. That's or I just prepare more information and we meet in a week or so. I think that one's under my purview probably because it's operational. I mean, it's our own city use,
Yeah,
right? Like,
so-
Yep.
just like we've cut back on parks and everything else. So
Yeah.
you're kind of comfortable with that as a head nod, then
Yeah, I like the idea that it sends a message, if you will. It puts people on notice that there's a problem. Well, guaranteed the community will be aware of that.
yeah, okay. Yeah, it'll just probably be on site, just, I mean, it is what it is. And then people that have park reservations will have to. Yeah, okay, so we'll,
If it isn't COVID, it's no water. Can't win.
Yeah, we can't win.
yeah, exactly, it's,
We're refunding fees every
and
year.
the mountain's on fire as well, so what do we do?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, I got one of the invites to the UAMPS members conference. The council's invited to that one. That's one that they like to have elected officials attend. It's a pretty good agenda as far as what's happening in the overall power industry, kind of carbon free and legislation and that sort of thing. It's in California, and the UAMPS covers the cost. They budget for elected officials to attend that one. And did everybody get a invite? Yeah.
I got one. in-
Okay.
No, I didn't pay attention, Ty, because it was out of state and wondered maybe why they wouldn't just have it in Utah, but. I
Yeah,
guess
they move it around, and there's a UAMPS members in a lot of the other states, and pretty much no matter what they do, they end up paying travel for most of the membership. They do like to make it a retreat, a nice thing to encourage participation. And
Would they
that's
pay
just-
all of the expenses, air and hotel?
for lodging, I'm not exactly sure on it. We pay it, we get reimbursed. I know that the director and the representative of the city, like mine's all reimbursed, and I'll check. I can double check and send an email out to everybody on how the accounting works. We've not had many council members attend from the city in the past, and so I'm not exactly sure how that works. I just know it's a large budget item that they do within UAMPS, so.
Yeah, I looked at the agenda and it was, encouraging and a lot going on there, but then saw where it was at and, have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Last time that their last member conference was in Jackson Hole. They move it around. They've tried both ways, but they get a lot more participation when it's a nice
Yeah.
getaway for people, so.
Tell them that Morgan has a new hotel.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, exactly. So we had a meeting this morning for fireworks restrictions over at the firehouse, and we were talking also about just fire restrictions within the county and the city. Today was our very first red flag warning as far as fire weather, the heat, the dry, and then today it kicked up on the wind, and right in the middle of our meeting, their alarms went off and they rushed out of the meeting. So I assume that we're gonna have fire restrictions based on the outcome of that meeting. We're all talking in the same direction, right? So we have a current fireworks restriction. Is it ordinance or resolution? Executive order, thank you. That we renew every year. So it's
It's in place until revoked. We don't have to renew it.
in place until revoked. So basically what we're gonna do is just relook at the mapping and make sure something hasn't changed, and it's kind of the buffer zones where, fireworks aren't allowed, but I think they're adding, we're gonna see the fire marshal add no fires, right? Like backyard pits, any of that in those same areas. And then the rest of the city is really not a huge concern once you're inside the city, so.
I just took it off of airplane mode, sorry. Let me put it back on airplane mode, should I?
Won something, was that,
No.
jazz game hasn't even started yet. That's odd.
Okay, we're on We're on airplane mode again, so we're good. Sorry about that.
Okay, another update is the Young Street Bridge. I think I mentioned that Denise and the mayor really helped put a packet together to Congressman Moore's office requesting federal assistance on the gap of funding, and we just got word that it made the list. And so it's on the federal budget for September.
Oh, I mean, that means the money's headed our way.
Once the budget's approved, it's a really good sign, that because it's on the list and it's included in the packet, if you want to call it the packet and so that's $1.547 million
Yeah.
towards the bridge, which is significant. So we're hopeful that comes through.
When do they approve the budget?
In September, end of September.
All right.
So the federal year starts October 1st and then September 30th.
So that'd be great timing for our start in next spring.
Yeah, the odd thing is for once, I think the federal funding might get here before the bridge. This is weird.
Yeah.
So, it's always, it's like our project, but
Yeah.
normally it's like everywhere else, it's like, I'll have that thing designed and built before you ever approve funding. And I think this might be opposite. So anyway, the project's still moving forward. It's been delayed and pushed back just on contract negotiations with the engineering company that we selected. So their engineering's now slated to start in October. But like I said, by the time it gets built and we have all the funding ready to go, that's a very comfortable situation, I think, for the city to be in. So
Good work.
exciting news.
That's a great report. That's exciting.
So the election candidates is on my list, and I'm just trying to decide at what point I insert that to announce who's running for office, because we keep having these droughts and then like new employee drought, fires, bridge. Is now a good time to mention who's running for office? I don't know. If it's an up or a down, like.
Are you
Anyway,
afraid to withdraw?
So is that was emailed to everybody? So just maybe for the public record, I guess, I'll just say for the mayor, our mayor's decided not to run again. Why did I start with that? I will miss him.
Yeah, I don't think he gets to make that decision, does he?
I don't know who made it, but he
His
did.
wife?
So for mayor, we have Steve Gale and Tony London running. For city council 2-year term, David R. Alexander is running unopposed. So you can finish out that 2-year term, and then the city council is Jeffrey Richens, Justin Farron, and Eric Turner. So we have 3 members running for 2 positions. And then on the mayoral race, if one caveat is if Tony doesn't win that, he still retains his current council seat. And so that's kind of where we're at.
So does that require a primary, Denise?
No.
Oh, because
Yeah, because there's only one candidate extra per position, right? So,
we'll just vote on that for the at the general election then.
yep.
Gotcha. Oh, good.
Yeah, so. And then the other interesting thing, last time we had an election, there wasn't a single campaign sign, but now we have two new members to the game, so you might have to pull your campaign signs out of your garages and throw them out there. Who knows?
We don't have any campaign signs.
You've never
in the
used them?
garage. I'd actually have to fill out the paperwork, Ty.
Yeah, that's that's funny. I think that's, oh, so
Chamber stuff.
one thing I had is just that the chamber had a successful golf tournament. It was well attended and incredibly hot weather. It was a good day though. A lot of momentum with the chamber right now. The 4th of July activities are scheduled for July 3rd. So if you get asked that, it's the kind of typical schedule. They're working on getting it posted right now, but it starts with the breakfast, the volleyball team breakfast in the park, the ceremony with the veterans. The parade starts at 10. Then there's kids games and vendor and food trucks over at the fairgrounds from 11 to 2. The boat regatta or rock crawling event, depending on if there's any water in the river. Yeah, they got to build amphibious boats this time or whatever that's called when you do water or land out of cardboard. Anyway, that's from 2:30 to 4:30. And then all of the other events will be back at the Recplex for the music and more food trucks and then preparation for the fireworks over at the school. So
The chamber puts on the fireworks show then again?
what's that?
Does the chamber provide the fireworks show?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They work that into their annual budget. It's because of lack of events, they're spending a little bit more on fireworks this year. And if we have a bunch of fireworks restrictions, I think that will be nice that the city
Yeah.
offers that show.
We contribute to that, don't we? If we will.
Yeah, so we contribute to the chamber. So we have our annual dues pretty much funds, a lot of what the chamber does. The chamber runs 4 activities a year for the city. And then they use the money that we contribute kind of as seed money to get things off the ground. And so it's been working well. I think that there's been some good momentum, and
They do a better job than we would.
yeah. And after the COVID year, I think they're pretty anxious to have some of these activities back. So
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mayor. I think, let me ask Wanda and then I'll get back to you.
Okay. Anything else for the council? David, anything else you got?
Just a quick update, Ty, on the general plan. I haven't heard much noise about that.
Yeah, next Tuesday's
Yeah,
meeting.
so we have a joint meeting on the 15th.
Okay.
So it's next Tuesday. They're doing one for the county and then they're doing one for the city, and you can attend either. They'll be broadcast or online. And I had a meeting with them today. So a lot of the input is now turned into just some concepts on land use proposals that include, some zoning changes, some annexation boundary ideas, transportation corridors, trail and park are all part of the new concept. And then population projections and housing stock needs and that sort of thing. So it's starting to take shape. So they're going to give a report back next Tuesday and give you the visual and what.
It seemed like in the process, there was a period where committees specific to a particular, interest were going to be formed. Does that happen that would provide input?
Say that again.
It seemed like there were committees that would be formed for specific interests, maybe business or agriculture that would, and
Yeah.
this committee would provide input. Is that taking
Yeah.
place?
Yep. So they did those. Those were called focus groups.
Yes,
So,
yes.
After the survey, they held focus groups and they heard different perspectives from different groups, mining, outdoor recreation,
Yeah.
economic or commercial, and they had those meetings and took input from them. So
Do you feel the turnout, was there good turnout? Was there good representation?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
we had probably 10 or 15 people on each committee.
That's great.
They, even outside of those, you know, some of those conversations led to follow-up conversations. Like,
Mhm.
you know, someone would get involved in a conversation, say, hey, I think you really need to talk to this other
Yeah,
person that farms up the road from me, or that sort of thing. And they've kind of followed all of those conversations to make sure the perspectives at least were included. So,
yeah, it seemed to me that would be that's where a lot of the input would come from. So I'm glad to hear it was well attended.
yeah, and, they've come up with, I think, 7 common themes through that process. You know, maintain the look and feel, the atmosphere, honor our, anyway, I'll let them, I'm just started giving their update. They'll do a much better job than me next Tuesday. So
Does that compete with our planning and zoning meeting?
it's before.
Okay.
So we had it on the same night as the county commission meeting and the same night as our planning and zoning, just to respect our nights of the week.
Yeah.
Our planning commission's invited as well as the county or the city council.
Okay, good.
I could add to that a little bit. I had a Zoom meeting a week or so ago. I wasn't really sure why I was invited to it, but it was Landmark. I forget who it was that facilitated the Zoom meeting. But that one had to do with like mining extraction and that. So I think it probably involved me because where I worked at the plant, which is considered a mine. I know the Wardell brothers were in on that one, and you know, basically concerning any type of extraction, mining that was taking place in the city or the county. So they must be focusing in on specific areas. So it was about an hour, probably a Zoom meeting regarding that type of activity in the county.
Yeah, good.
Can I ask a question? Did they include Geneva in that by any chance?
Yeah,
Geneva.
the
Okay.
over to the Metz Hollow. Yeah. I believe they were there, Gary. I think so. I'm trying to remember who all was in on the call, but yeah, I know some Wardells were.
Anything else, David?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Tony?
No.
Jeff?
No.
Eric?
No.
Okay. I just want to remind you of anything else? No. Okay.
No,
I'd like to excuse Jeffrey Richards. He's got some tough duty last week.
Yeah.
Now Mexico playing around.
Yeah.
I'll be in
Okay,
prison.
his dad, I saw his dad yesterday. His dad told me he's coming back today sometime, so probably later tonight. Gary, do you have anything for us at this point? Okay, all right. I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
Good night.